Dave's a lawyer. He used to be a trial lawyer. He's an entrepreneur.
Don't leave. I was one of the good guys.
So he says, but as I've come to learn, he really is. I also am married to a lawyer, so I can say that. I get the street cred. I live with one. But he's been an executive consultant and a spiritual mentor. Dave, our first interaction was I had set up a meeting to understand what the OmniCube was, and it was a busy time preparing for foster care where we set the meeting, and then I promptly stood him up at that meeting. But he was there waiting when I realized I was 15 minutes late, and I was grateful that he was there because he's a very unique individual, as you will see, and when he talks to you about the OmniCube, very passionate about making a difference for kids. And so this cube I'm very excited about because I experienced it myself. You will have an opportunity to sign up to experience it yourself, but what it does is it pulls you back to the here and now. And I'm just going to say two more things about that. I think for all our workers in here, we know that our children typically live in the past because of the trauma. It pulls them back. They have flashbacks, PTSD, right? They're always, that trauma is always there from behind sneaking up on them, and it affects the present. They very rarely look into the future, right? Many of our foster parents are living well into the future. That was me before, really the foster care journey of got everything planned for the next year. I've got the sense of security of having everything out there and secure. It's not promised to me, it's fictitious, but I have learned to live in the moment, and this cube brings you back to the moment. And so for our parents sometimes, I think this can be extremely helpful. For our children, it can be extremely helpful too, in those very heightened moments to bring them into the present and focus not on the past, but the current moment. So without further ado, Mr. Dave Gold. I'm going to bring up.
Everyone hear me okay? I don't hear Mike. All right. So, I got to give you just a little origin story of how I happened to be here. Someone referred me to, they said, there's this attached conference in October, you guys got to be there, it's really got to be something. And I looked it up, it was like 10 grand. And I said, wait, we're a startup. There's no way, I don't care what. Mary, God bless you and all, but I wasn't spending 10 grand to come to your conference. He said, no, wait, I think there's a table. I think you get a table for, it's worth it. I don't want to say it's not worth it, okay? But they said, no, I think there's a table. So I couldn't find a website. So I called and I figured I'd talk to an assistant or somebody. Or, I go right to the head of the food chain. And we just talk about accessibility, being there. And that told me everything I needed to know, that she was answering the phone from a stranger. And we hit it off, and we started working together, and she talked about the conference, and then she introduced me to this incredible woman who made sure I really wanted it by standing me up. I'm glad she said that, because I didn't want to say that. But immediately I thought, oh my God, this is someone that gets it. This is someone who wants to say yes. And so one thing led to another, and that's what brings us here today. Now, before I start, normally, I have a presentation probably, right, Heather?
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, okay, all I really need is the film. I'm just gonna juggle and do card tricks until we get this thing done. But anyway, I had a presentation here. I thought that the hardest thing I had to do was to wait 15 minutes. She just keeps raising the bar to make sure we
Little technical difficulty. We're working it all out. Just ignore all of it.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. All right, this is going to get easier, I promise. And if we don't have it, it's fine. This will work great. But anyway, I had a presentation, and my beloved wife said, and those of you who have met and probably figured out already, I'm a personable guy. I like people. But I get in front of people, and I get so serious. And it's crazy. It's because I used to be a trial lawyer, and I've been, and I've done performing and everything else. But she said, hey, you love talking to people, just engage people. So I'm going to be engaging you, and that's one of the reasons to make my wife happy, and also to make it easier for you, so I don't look like I just, my dog just died. So that's part of it. But there's another reason that I'm going to be engaging you in the time that I have here, and that's that what I say will just land flat if there's not a field. and we know this. This is the field of love, call it whatever you want, the field of connectivity, the field of receptivity, of authenticity, of vulnerability. So, and I can't create that myself. So to whatever extent throughout this, as I feel obliged to draw things out from you, please feel free to meet me there. And the other thing is, I do have notes, and it's because I was walking the dog at 4 o'clock this morning. What tends to happen about 7 is my partner say Dave needs his nappy. So sometimes my mind goes blank, and when I was a trial lawyer, that was really unhandy. When you're standing in front of a jury, and they're waiting for the next thing for you to say, and you have absolutely no idea, and you can't do card tricks or juggle at that point. So if I look at my notes occasionally, it's just because, it's generally my mind went blank. So I want to tell you, this is not a sales pitch, although we're a business, and we'd love you to promote, buy, what we do. And it's not an infomercial, even though there's going to be information that's going to come from this. Dare I say, and this is one crowd I could get away with this is a love story. And if there's anybody that can suspend their disbelief long enough to believe in a love story, whatever that story is, I would say that it's this particular crowd. And I will tell you about the OmniCube, and we might even show you, if we're really lucky, what it is. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time. We have it set up over there. We have time for you to come and experience it. It's back in the room. Trust me, it's there. You can't just follow the balls. But anyway, and it was one of my business partners once said, don't figure out, find out. I could tell you all kinds of things. But I really want to talk about the OmniCube in a certain context. And for that, I want to ask a question. This is like a Doug question for this group. But I do a parenting podcast with Angie Shockley, who runs therapeutic treatment centers up in West Virginia. Also happens to be a certified shamanic practitioner, which is one reason we connected. And last week, I had actually my wife's aunt on, who has fostered over 150 children. So, I mean, she gets, I said, you're a saint. She said, not yet. I said, I think they got you in for beatification. I think the process has already started. And I asked her, what's the biggest challenge you have, with all these kids? What is it, the one thing that you see over and over again that makes it most difficult? And I'm just going to throw that out to you. You can shout it out, you can raise your hand. What is it? What do you think is the one challenge over and over again she's seen in these 150 kids that they foster? Come on.
Dysregulation.
Dysregulation?
They don't play.
They don't, who? Brian, did you put her in here or what?
I planted her, yeah.
She's a plant, because it's play-based there. Anybody else? Oh, she said they don't play. Anything else? Oh, boom. It's lack of trust. Okay, but she said it's bonding, and why don't they bond? They bond because they can't trust. And it makes sense they can't trust, because when you're in survival, you don't have the space for trust. That's not the appropriate response in survival. So how do we get out of survival? How do we get these kids out of survival? And as I'm going to talk about in a second, assuming my head continues to move, and it's moving pretty well so far, that I'm going to show you the OmniCube as a trust-generating mechanism. Okay? And that is critical because, as I'm going to talk about a little bit later in my own short version of the love story, is at some point in my own life, I found myself loving more than I feared. I found myself trusting more than I was afraid of being made a fool of. That flips everything. So the question is, how do we do, this is what we're all doing. We're all creating a field of trust. This is the field I was talking about earlier, where they can can they suspend their disbelief long enough to actually trust enough to let life prove itself. Now that's been my own personal journey. My journey was, look, I've been a trial lawyer, I've done so many different things that don't necessarily engender themselves to life. And in fact, I don't generally show this book, but I spent 20 years with an American Zen master who thought you had to suffer your way to enlightenment. I've run the other experiment where, oh my God, life's terrible, you gotta get out of it. I have, I'm 71, but I mean, the gray hairs, I'm still in pretty good shape, I tell myself. But, the gray hairs are really well earned. And it took something, which I'll talk about in a minute, to get me to a point where, okay, I actually can trust. But life has to prove that to you. You have to have that in your experience. You can talk, you know this, you can talk everything, say, oh my God, you got a bed. We're not going anywhere. No one's gonna take you out and move you somewhere else. No one's gonna beat you, whatever the heck they've gone through. But they have to have that in their own experience. And that's what, that's love. That's what we're doing. When you could say all the things you want, and Mary's a master. If she was, she'd be a Zen master, but she's a master of attachment. She's a master of bonding, and this woman is as well. And her, I don't know how much you know her story, but her story is just a tale of love. It's a love story. It's a love story that why would you walk away from a life that works so well for you? And now I'm totally, I don't know where the hell I am on this sheet, so we don't have to worry about me getting blank anymore. But it's really, it's a love story. Oh my God, I saw this kid and I thought I gotta do it, and then the time came to do it, and then everything changed. So that's what we're doing. So the cube, and I'm gonna show you what the cube is, how it does it, but we can turn the jewel 100 different ways, but it gives people the experience of actually forgetting, and this is critical. It doesn't necessarily make you trust. It gets you to forget not to trust. And if you think about everything that you've done in your life, it's like you try, and I know I was like 40 years, spiritual seeker. I said I'm a recovering spiritual seeker. But all that time I was trying to get something. I was trying to become something. I was trying to change something. I just felt I had a goal and I wanted to do it. But suddenly what you find is, no, it's just in the rearview mirror. That which you were most trying to overcome or transcend or become something different than is actually suddenly in your rearview mirror. And that is, heck, I'd buy one deal on the cube. I'm just listening to myself. That guy sounds pretty convincing. But that's what the OmniCube does. So let me, and I'll talk about, in the imperfection economy.
I can click for you, this one?
Yeah, where's the OmniCube? So, we're just can play the video?
Yes.
All right.
The next video, this one.
Everybody just pray to whatever God you pray to, and let's see if we can get this thing up. All right. That's all right. Do I need to get pros from Dover? Joey? Okay.
I can search it.
All right. Anyway, it was there. We have this set up in a room over there, and you'll be able to see it. And it is a methodology which you may or may not see. We were able to act where you go through it's a 7x7 structure. You go through and you're given certain instructions, and it's play-based movement therapy. You're told you touch balls, do this, do that. It does it much better than I could describe it here. I was not really prepared to describe it. I can tell you what it does. What it does is it enables you to rewire your brain. It actually breaks your brain in the most gentle and loving manner possible. And we have science committees, we have tests being run, they have explanations, depending on who you talk to, about why this does it, why this getting instructions and actually moving through this particular process does what it does. But it puts people in a state of flow. It enables people to meditate without sitting still. In my own personal experience of the OmniCube, what got me going, oh my God, I did card tricks just long enough. Okay.
I can't find it on YouTube, but that's the video from her.
And what you can see here is Joe, whoever the facilitator, is giving instructions. Touch the purple ball with your left hand and touch the yellow ball with your knee or whatever. And the instructions continue to get a little bit more challenging. So you are playing at the same time you're being challenged. And one of the keys to the process is there's no rights or wrongs. You can't make a mistake. Nothing you do is wrong. If you do nothing, it's wrong. If you touch the red ball instead of the blue ball, it's not. But of course, we're so performance-based, we can't help but want to do the best we can, right? No matter how people come and you tell them, believe me, and I know there's performance anxiety when you get into that. So That's close enough. And again, what I invite you to do, and tomorrow Joe will be talking, is come in and check it out, and I can explain more of what it does. But the point of where you start from, that the instructions are, there's no rights or wrong. I'm going to give you something to use and something to touch. And you can basically do anything you want as you get these instructions. And it sounds very simple. And I've tried to explain that, I was a trial lawyer, I've mentored entrepreneurs, I've had my own companies. I am a great wordsmith. You can come up with anything and I'll be able to I'll gift wrap it for you. People would say, what's the cube? I'd say, don't ask. It broke my brain. It broke my brain trying to describe what it is. But what happened is that we had one of my friends came in with his daughter is ADHD, and she fell asleep in the car for the first time in life. She said, Daddy, I've never felt so calm. We had another gentleman, he's a very famous and accomplished in the neurofeedback world, and he came through. I didn't know he had Parkinson's disease. And he went back and he said, my wife said, your tremors are less. You're smiling more. It's like just about everyone that comes through this process comes out in a different way. And what I've said is that it's almost like, the best way I can describe it is like the aliens dropped this thing down and said, you figure it out, okay? And that's what we're doing. But why does it work? I mean, there's all kinds of reasons. The reason it works because you can't make a mistake. Now imagine what life would be like if you couldn't make a mistake. Now, you know what that means? That means you're taking all judgment out of life, okay? So it's interesting because this is one of my catchphrases, but it hasn't caught on, but let's see if there's discernment without judgment. There's wisdom without judgment, okay? So you're still, yes, some things are better than others. No, I don't want you to stick your finger in that socket, No, I'd rather you eat vegetables, whatever it is, there's still that. But the judgment piece of it, that's constantly going through your mind. And we do open houses on Thursday, and we had a yoga teacher there who I know prides herself, on the yoga. But what she said, I can't believe how judgmental I am to myself. And we all are. I don't care who you are or what you've done. We're all living with that constant judgmental piece. So to be able to be in a point where you can actually not be judged, truly not be judged, but still being challenged. This isn't like, oh, come here, you're great how you are, yeah, there's some of that. We want to hold a space of love for everyone and everything. That's my life. If that's my job description, I hold a space of love with discernment, okay? That's one reason, I'm 71 years old. Why am I in another business? Because this is right down the alley of what my whole life is about. And this gets to the love story piece, which all the work I put in that sheet is a total waste of time. But even though I've been a spiritual seeker, and I used to spend these, I said one of the reasons the cube got me is I would spend 30 days in isolation. That was my break from being a trial lawyer. I go out in a meditation cabin, I wouldn't see a soul, I wouldn't talk to a soul, I wouldn't even read a book. I would just sit there with my mind. And about 3 weeks in, my mind would stop. And oh my God. With this crazy Jewish mind, and all the neuroses that I got, to be able to actually be free of it, it was worth 21 days of freezing my butt off and not seeing a soul and fasting and everything else that I did. And I got into the cube and my mind stopped in 20 minutes. I thought, whoa. I'm not telling any of you people, my wife can't even read my book. It's too painful. I wouldn't recommend my life to anybody, that life. So if there's a way to democratize meditation, spirituality, trust, whatever this transformational process is, that was worth me getting back on the horse again. My own experience, and I'm going to bring this back to foster care in a minute and pretend like I'm following some kind of an outline here. But my own experience was when I was 62 years old, the woman of my dreams parachuted into my life. And it's funny, when we met, we were just friends, there was no chemistry, and one day the scales fell from my eyes. And I realized this was, I call it a love unimaginable. It was greater than anything I could have imagined. And what it did is it challenged my self-image. I mean, this is a big moment where everyone's going to go break out in tears and they're rolling this thing down the aisle. So bear with me here for a second. So anyway, I was, and I thought, this woman can't love this man. I've got this perfection project going. I still leave the toilet seat up, I still do this. I had all these things that I thought I couldn't do it. And at some point, my sense of self bucked up against the truth of this love. And I had to make a decision. Was I going to hang on to this old, outdated version of myself in the sense of not trusting life, that this was too good to be true and I'm going to be made a fool of? And all of that, I'm telling you, that was churning in. I mean, I can't tell you how much that was churning in me. Or am I going to trust? And at that point, the love overwhelmed the fear. Now look, do I still get frightened? Are there still times do I still think, how does this woman love me? Or anything else that I do? Sure. You're not going to get to a point where you're free of fear. It's 51%. You just want to be more rooted in love than fear. More rooted in trust than doubt. Okay? And that requires a direct experience. This isn't something you can train, you can teach. This is something that actually happens in real time, in real life. Why is this important? So let me throw it back out again because I've talked more than I wanted to. Why is trust important? Why would that? If you could give foster children the sense of, I can just trust a little bit, why would that be important? I guess I don't know if the answer's in the question or not. Any thoughts? Imagine if you could just impart trust. You could transmit trust into those.
It'd be wonderful.
Wouldn't it? What was that?
It would grow.
It would grow. How do you mean? Play that out a little more.
Becoming more trustful.
Second plan. That's great. And what I found out is that this is the virtuous circle going up. And that is that the more that I trusted, the more I could let go. And the more I let go, the more life proved itself to me. The more life proved itself to me, the more I could let go, the more I could trust. And it just starts going up and up and up. And of course you hit the walls. Well, here's payroll, here's this. My daughter, I have a 21-year-old daughter that's been in and out of wilderness and there, all kinds of stuff. It's the one reason I do the podcast. If there's ever a teacher for me, if there's ever a question where, am I David, you eat your own cooking? Do you really let go? Do you really trust? And Audra and I have had some conversations about this. I mean, I'm talking from it, not about it. Okay, I know. So I'm not saying, this is easy. You just get on the train and it, works its way up. It may or it may not. It will go up. But this is the virtuous circle. And we want to do, and I know this, and again, this is your bailiwick, not mine. I don't want to sound like I'm telling you what to do, or I pretend to know that I'm as deeply immersed in this particular beautiful paradigm that you're in. But I know that it's getting them to just trust enough to let go a little bit so your love can come through. Everything you're bringing to them can come through in a way that it actually starts to move. So,
We have the video.
what's that?
We have the video.
Hold it. We'll save it.
Okay.
But thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry we made it so hard for you.
No.
Okay.
You're doing great.
Yeah, I think so. Feels good. So, not only is it important to the kids to be able to get this trust, and this is what I'm passionate about. This is my vehicle for my passion. Okay? But it's a vehicle that I'm, putting my life into right now. Pushing my life into. I got great partners too, by the way. I got two beautiful people. Ryan is holding his camera, and Joe, who's the mad scientist who created this, he's back here as well. And I just am in awe of the mind and the heart that was able to put this thing together. But it's important for parents. Because they know, I don't tell you this, they know when you're talking from it or about it. And whatever you have unresolved, I have a quick story. Which time was it? Time for a quick story?
10, and we need to make the announcement about the tour.
What's that?
The touring.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. I'll tell a quick story. A friend of mine, he's I really more like a family member than a friend. And about 10, there's 8 in the family. They consider me the 9th brother. And 3 of them, there were 4 guys, 3 brothers and one, they were snowmobiling out in Colorado, and it was a blizzard and they missed the signpost and they went over. one of the brothers, Jamie, landed headfirst and suffocated. Two of them were stuck on a mountainside. They could hear, the rescuers couldn't reach them because they're just the way they were in Colorado. And they finally were able to get them out of there. And he's never processed this. And he reached out to me because his daughter, they're looking for programs for the daughter. And I listened to him, I said, I won't mention his name, but I said, you gotta, this is something you need to do yourself, right? And he said, no, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my daughter straightened away and then I'm gonna get myself straightened away. I mean, now, we're all like, oh, that's nuts, except we do it ourselves. All of us, we're gonna postpone our own stuff until we get that. And they're living in our field. That's what I know. My daughter is living in my field. The greatest gift I've given my daughter, I think, thus far, is my presence. She knows that I trust life. She knows that I know life's good. She knows that I expect people are gonna be good to me, and I'm gonna be good to them. And it's not something that I've told her. It's because she's living in that field, and that's the field I live in. So this isn't just for those poor, unfortunate, the kids we love and you're fostering whatever your role is. It's for us. It's for us as parents, but it's also for you as whatever role, fill in the blank that you're doing right now. They're gonna pick it up from you. If you're going home and you have to, you don't have to whatever extent, you can pick up the palpability of my passion, my authenticity of what I'm saying, more so. That's why I don't even care if you see I want to show you the cube, yeah, absolutely. But it's not that. This is the coin of the realm. It's my beingness. That's the coin of the realm of yours, is your beingness as well. So that's what the cube is. That's what the cube does. And a couple things, and then I realized I was writing this at 4 o'clock this morning. I was putting some final touches on it. Is that, yes, people say, okay, I'm calmer, I'm clear, I'm more focused, I'm in flow, I feel creative. And I'll have to say, oh, the cube does all that. No, what the cube does is it removes all the crap that keeps you from experiencing the natural state. Just the same way with these kids, you're letting them know that love is the baseline. Love and trust and the goodness of life is the baseline of their experience, of their existence. And all this other stuff that, and God bless, all of you. And that's, and Mary and Audrey too that I know. But that's what the cube does, is it just breaks that part of your brain long enough for you to be able to experience that. And that's the shortest version I could tell you. So, what we're gonna do, again, we're gonna show this video so you can see what the hell I've been talking about for the last 20 minutes. And then we're gonna go back and do a quick, was that the thought of showing them?
I think we will talk about it, and then we've got lunch, but then we have a break. At the break we can.
Whatever you wanna do.
Yeah.
So we're set up another, and look.
It's on the way to the restrooms on this side of the building.
There's a big poster board that says, come here, put your nickel here, pull the lever. But anyway, I would.
Is that okay?
The first of its kind, the OmniCube combines play and movement, resulting in mental and physical therapy for a holistic approach to whole body health. The OmniCube is a one-of-a-kind 7x7x7 play pod in which participants move freely, guided by instructional cues given by a facilitator. The facilitator guides the participant through movement-based prompts such as touch the red ball with your right hand and the blue ball with your left hand. As the facilitator assesses how the participant moves and responds to each prompt, they will gradually and strategically incorporate more difficult cues, such as, now when you touch the red ball, say blue, and when you touch the blue ball, say red. The OmniCube structure and its protocol are deeply rooted in a long-established scientific understanding of play as a monumental pillar in developmental research. In the OmniCube, play therapy conditions participants to be welcoming of adversity and complexity in their lives, all while regulating the nervous system through powerful movement therapy. The beauty of the OmniCube's holistic mind and body approach is its versatility and application. These play-based practices have led to increases in heart rate variability, emotional regulation in neurodiverse populations, an increased feeling of calm in participants with ADHD, reduction of symptoms in patients with Parkinson's, and an overall feeling of presence, calm, and flow state for all OmniCube participants. Please share this informational video with friends, family, and colleagues, and contact the OmniCube team by phone, email, or social media. The OmniCube, play-based movement therapy.
All right, I think we do one of these. We got it up. So that's it. As I say, don't figure out, find out. And what I'd ask you all to do, because we have creative fuel here, is suspend your disbelief. You know, the hardest thing for me with my wife was she was too good to be true. And she still is. But to be able to hold a space that something could be too good to be true and actually be true, it is, that actually there is something that can do this. And I want you all to experience, don't take my word for it. Experience it for yourself. We have times tomorrow morning where we have slots you can sign up for during breaks or whatever, but just, you don't have to look like these guys rolling around like superstars, you know, ninjas. It could be as little or as much as you want. But anyway, thank you very much. I just feel so much welcoming, and yeah.
Can I ask you a question? You said that there is no wrong approach. Thinking of myself being self-judgmental. If you tell me to touch the red ball with my elbow and I use my finger instead, I'm going to be going, oh my gosh, I made a mistake, and I'm going to be judging myself. So how do you get the participant to let that go?
Joe, you wanted to speak to that?
Yeah, so this is my baptized.
You have to speak up.
So the full phrase that I give everybody when you start is that there are no rules, there are no rights and wrongs, and you can do anything you want. I'm going to give you something to use and something to touch. Okay, so there's simple tasks that you instruct the person in there to do. And what that phrase does is it creates a separation of power dynamic, a separation of ego. Okay, so that way the person on the outside, no matter what you ask them to do, the person on the inside, if they say, I don't want to play, they're still right. Right? So it helps teach boundaries, helps teach empathy, critical thinking, problem solving. So it's the idea of creating complexity in your life without any consequences. So it allows them to feel what it feels like to make the mistake, knowing that there isn't a shocker, no one's gonna yell at you for making the wrong decision. Nobody's gonna like criticize you or anything like that. So you get to, what ends up happening is that oftentimes our traumas are stored in our movements and our bodies, and like we go into these freeze responses or withdrawals. And as you move in so many different creative, interesting ways, you get the freedom to do whatever you want. It starts to process that out, and people find out that, like, you know, I had a woman yesterday. She was trying to figure out why she had this feeling in her gut while she was playing it, but she was attaching herself to her wounded child. That's something she's been working on for a long time. And she grew up in a family of like very, very strict. Everything was guided, everything was told what to do and how to do it and all this. And when I gave her autonomy, this is what happens in strict parenting. And I've had autonomy since I was a small child. My parents were like, yo, just do whatever you want. But when you're given somebody that's been strict autonomy, they don't know what to do with it. And it makes them feel uncomfortable. And you're helping them titrate up at whatever level they can handle, at the level that you just keep building that up until they're stronger and stronger. But the idea is meeting them where they're at, mentally, physically, psychologically. My wife has gone through a lot of trauma, and there's a phrase that she always says, she goes, come back and get me. Right? I haven't had that. I've had everything I've ever needed my whole life. She hasn't, but she says, come back and get me. And I think that's what we do with these kids, is that just because you've had it doesn't mean they've had it. And you have to find a way to come back, and you have to go back and get them and take their hand and lead them up little by little, to let them come back to where you're at, or where this family's at. And that's that tiny little bit, like crumbs, like think of like sips. Right? Find out what you need to heal in yourself, and go back and get them and bring them up a little bit more at a time. So
Tracy, when I went through it for the first time, I was disoriented like that. Like, oh my gosh, you're serious? There's no right and wrong? Oh, I did this wrong. It's anxiety ridden. And then I looked out to Ryan for approval, right? I'm constantly thinking, did I do it right? Am I moving fast enough? But then you eventually learn in this that you can let that go. And I think one of the important things as an engagement tool for our families, specifically in visitation, and that's what we're offering to you over this summer. We're going to keep this cube here, and Talk With Our Friends is going to help bring it from agency to agency. Whoever wants to sign up as an engagement tool, set it up so that in family visitation rooms, a parent can start to engage with their child. I know it's often hard, right? We've got little toys and in a room, and we're supposed to, it's very contrived, right? It's very hard to start that play, and it's sometimes very hard to keep it going. This is a tool where it can also simultaneously help to calm them down and focus them in the moment. And I want you to think for a moment too about the role reversal of having the child then sit with the instruction cards. Okay, mom, touch red with your right, touch blue with your left, or crawl on the floor and touch it with your knee, whatever age they're at. That they can then model these instructions, right? Giving instructions and reward, right? And I think that it could empower them as well. So that's out there for you all to let us know if you're interested, and we're happy to facilitate it for 3 or 4 weeks at a time to see, how your families respond to it.
Wow.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Sorry for the technical.
Joe's in the back, Ron's got the camera. Great guys, great people. Just feel free to talk to us if you feel so inclined. That's why we're here.